Today is our second talk of the Converge Symposium, and we have the honor to have Mr. David Pidwell here with us. He's an OU alumni. He graduated in 1970, and now he's a partner in Alloy Ventures, a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. So he has some very interesting stories about his career for us, and he's going to share his thoughts on how the market is changing. That is of interest to all of us. Before we start, I would like to thank WOUV for providing the videotaping and the streaming services. Okay, so please go ahead.
Dr. Arosa, thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to come here and speak with this group today. I appreciate it, and I hope we can have a good interchange, good dialogue. I will talk for a few minutes, and then I'm going to really want to get into some questions and answers. So if I say something that causes a question in your mind, please keep it, and we'll do our very best to get to it and try to address it and answer it for you. I'll start off by saying it's fun to come back home. I was raised here in Ohio. I graduated from Ohio University in 1970 with a master's degree from the Russ College of Engineering, and graduated the year before with my bachelor's degree. After graduation, I got in my little Volkswagen Bug and drove west all the way across the country to the San Francisco Bay Area. This is an area today that is perhaps more familiar to you as Silicon Valley. I went to California primarily to enroll at Stanford University. I did enroll. I started my education there. I spent several years. I'd never finished a PhD. I met some students. I had an opportunity to go out and start a company. And I really got my education as an entrepreneur on the streets of Silicon Valley. I've spent my entire career, 40 years, a little over 40 years now, working out in this area. When I first got to this area, Silicon Valley, Bay Area, I found an area that was primarily fruit orchards and cattle grazing land. Not so much different than if you were to get in your car and drive from Athens to Columbus on Route 33. And if you look around, that was basically what Silicon Valley was, just open farming, grazing land. Today, Silicon Valley is a very different environment. It is wall-to-wall headquarters of high-tech businesses, many businesses that you're very familiar with. Companies like Google and Yahoo, and Intel and Cisco and Oracle and Hewlett-Packard and Facebook, and it goes on and on. Apple Computer. Just great companies, rapidly growing, very successful, and new ones are coming up every day. It's an exciting, fun environment, but very different transformation of building an industry from a little bit of research work in a couple universities. Silicon Valley is about 50 miles long. At the top is Berkeley, California, University of California at Berkeley, and Stanford University at the bottom. And technology from these two universities was what fed the space in between, where companies were created and large successful companies grew from. So there was a real team spirit between the industry and the universities to make all this happen. But it's not very different in the beginning from what I see today right here in Ohio between OU and OSU. And my hope is that someday we can come here and talk about that corridor in the same way we can talk about Silicon Valley today. I've had the fortunate opportunity to play a role in the creation of what we call Silicon Valley. I've spent 40 years taking ideas and turning them into business plans, building businesses, and creating that culture, the way we operate out there. I mean, I, plus many others, were a key component to the creation of that. I spent 25 years as an entrepreneur, starting 2 companies. Both these companies, I got lucky, turned out to be very successful companies. One grew up to be $1.5 billion over 15 years. We went public. Stock price rose again and again, year after year. And eventually IBM came in and acquired it for $5 billion, big company. And then they destroyed the company in many ways. They tried to change the culture of the company to that of IBM, which was very different from what we had created. And they ended up chasing away the key people. And in doing so, the company floundered, and IBM basically gave it away to Siemens Corporation and wrote off $5 billion. It was a lesson for them to learn. I went off and started a software company, a company called Rasna Corporation, and it was a mechanical design automation software company. This company took 10 years, from idea to product development to basically becoming a leader in the marketplace. And we were in the process of going public, probably 2 or 3 weeks from being a public company, when I was approached by the CEO of a large software mechanical design company out of Boston called Parametric Technology Corporation. And they came in and basically made me a deal I couldn't refuse, ultimately acquired the company. And today it's running well in a combined state. Both parties are very happy with the outcome, and many employees are still there working and doing well. So, and then I've spent 25 years doing that, 15 years as a venture capitalist. This is an individual who invests in small startup businesses and is a mentor and a facilitator or a helper to small business teams as they're trying to organize and basically bring a product to market. And so that's the role I play today. I'm an investor and, if you will, a mentor to the 4 or 5 companies that I'm invested in. It's been a great experience. I've learned a lot. It's been fun, it's been rewarding, and it's been very challenging. A lot of competition. Everybody's fighting to put dollars into the best companies. Facebook's, everybody wants to be an investor there. And it's a game that gets played, but it's a healthy game. It's a very productive game. And Silicon Valley is a great place. It's a wonderful environment. The worst day of the year is today out here. And it's a small community, very high tech, but high tech is expanding these days. It's not physics, it's not electrical engineering as much as it is social media or digital media. I mean, things more focused on collaborating and communicating, leveraging technology is kind of where the area of focus is today. So it's a dynamically changing place, but a lot of opportunity. And it's been a fun time for me to build a new industry. 4 years ago, President McDavis came to me and we had lunch one day and he said, why don't you get reconnected with Ohio University? And in one of my weaker moments, I said, okay. I had not had any engagement with the university in all that time that I had been gone and out there in California, 40 years. But what he said was, come help me expand the program here at Ohio University to enhance technology, transfer, and commercialization. So help me take the innovation of our laboratories, our research here at OU, and let's license it out to the public sector, to corporate entities. And in return for that, we get rewarded. We get a royalty stream, or we get a equity ownership in that company that over time could be worth a lot of money to the university. And so we wanted to do more of this. Today I got involved. I'm on the board of trustees of the Ohio University Foundation. I'm on the board of visitors, it's called, for the Russ College of Engineering. And so I'm back here regularly with many different meetings and always on campus and always trying to promote entrepreneurial business development, technology commercialization, and trying to help students and faculty and administrators understand what all that means and why it's good for Ohio University. Recently, Governor Kasich asked me to sit on a statewide task force to study and create a strategy and a plan to leverage technology commercialization, so the innovation of technology from the state's universities as a way to rebuild the economy here in Ohio. And it's a creative concept. I think it's been thought through very carefully, and I think we're going to find that this isn't perhaps one avenue for which we can rebuild and build a prosperous state here in not too many years to come. Usually when I come back here, I spend most of my time talking about Silicon Valley and all that's going on and has been going on back there. But today I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to talk about is the state of the economy here in Ohio and the work that is going on to address that, both at a state level and at a university level. I think you'll be amazed at the amount of time and effort being put in. The governor recently used some words to express his feelings on the state of the economy. His words were, "Ohio remains under the influence of one of the deepest recessions since the Great Depression of the 1930s. So a pretty ugly picture. The economy of Ohio is depressed. The unemployment rate is high. Tax revenue dollars are declining. And to make matters worse, the industries that we used to rely on to generate jobs here in Ohio are going away." And so when you look at the state of affairs, it wasn't long ago that the government of Ohio was paying 60 plus, closer to 65% of all the operating expenses to run the state universities. Today, they're only able to afford to pay 20%. So it leaves a huge gap for the universities to struggle with, to solve, forcing them to do three things. One, they've had to raise tuition. I'm sure you've felt all that pain. Number two, they have been forced to cut their operating expending budgets by a significant amount, thus forcing the university to lay off administrative people and faculty people. And then thirdly, they've had to rely more on the endowment that the university has raised to cover operating expenses so that they didn't have to cut too deep, and to create scholarship programs more plentiful for students. Our goal is still to attract the best and brightest high school students to come to Ohio University. The fees are going up. We want to be competitive, and we're trying our very best to use scholarships more broadly to help parents and students kind of get over this hurdle of affordability and yet come to Ohio University. So there is a lot of work going on. I mean, we have high unemployment, low tax rates, and nowhere to turn is kind of the starting point of where we are today. I mean, we're in a world of hurt here. We've got to fix this. The good news is we're in the Midwest. We're in an environment where the mindset of people is one where we don't give up. We can do whatever it takes. That spirit, that camaraderie, that drive, that ambition is really what's going to push us forward to fixing our economy. I have no doubts. It may take a few years, but we will be back into a prosperous state that we once were and enjoyed. And I think there's a number of ways we can get there. And I'd like to talk about some of those. We got to start by saying, where is the first thing we have to do to begin to turn around the economy is we got to build new industry. And it's a growing belief today that new industry is going to come out of the research labs of the state's universities. And that this is going to have to get exploited and supported. Research has to be done in a way that will really enable business to be formed around it that can form the basis then of new industry. And when I'm talking about new industry, I'm really talking about life science, medical technology. I'm talking about renewable green tech energy. I'm talking about information technology. I mean, these are some fields where technology is in its early age of infancy of being exploited, and there's tremendous areas of further growth and development that can happen, that will take place. And I'm happy to tell you that Ohio University is doing a stellar job. They're really number one, leading the charge on technology commercialization in this state today. The royalties, the equity income that's being generated from the licensing of technology is second to nobody. Case we beat them. Ohio State, huge research centers. We have more royalty dollars coming in than does Ohio State. So when we look at doing technology transfer, innovation, I mean, what we're really trying to do is make sure that we're building technology that is worthy of a marketplace, that can go out and serve a customer, that we can then commercialize to build businesses around. And if we can do that and keep doing that, then we can maintain our state leadership position. So when I first got here, when I first came back to work with Dr. McDavis 4 years ago, there was 5 things that we identified that had to be worked on to try to optimize the positioning of Ohio University to be a leader in technology commercialization and entrepreneurship. And I'm happy to say a lot of work has been done progressing today on these fronts. The first one was we needed to do research work that was worthy of being commercialized. So if we go off on starting a research project, we should take a moment and stop and say, if this project is successful, the outcoming technology, is there a market in the world that it could serve where there's a real customer need? And make sure that our research work is aligned with the commercialization opportunities that could come down the road. and make sure more and more of our research is done with this focus in mind. Number two is we have to teach and train and mentor our students on the principles of how to be an entrepreneur. How do you take an idea? How do you take a piece of technology and evolve that into a viable, growing, successful, profitable business? You have to understand that process. Early on, you have to form a small team, a complementary team. If you're the CEO, maybe I need a VP of engineering, a VP of go-to-market sales, a VP of manufacturing. You put a team of complementary quality people together who really like each other, work well to each other, respect each other. And then they go off and write a business plan. This is the best you can do of kind of defining the unique technology you have, the product that's going to evolve from it, the market you're going to sell it to, and how much revenue you think you can generate over the years ahead. And then you take this business plan out to venture capitalists, to me. And we will spend 4 or 5 or 10 meetings over a month or two reviewing this and tearing it apart and really understanding it, because I need to know if you understand it. And you need to know, who is this crackpot? Me. And can we work together? And after a while, we'll finally come together and say, you know, I'd like to invest $5 million in this business and get going. And somebody else may come in and say, well, I'd like to invest $5 million. So maybe you can raise $10 million through 2 investors, and now you're off to the races. Now you've got a year or year and a half or maybe a little more of time where you can build a company, go out and rent a big facility. You can put in it 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 employees. Everybody's running to kind of build product and get ready to go to market, putting marketing campaigns together of communicating to the world that we're coming, and then executing all that and basically entering the market, start generating revenue. And maybe at that point in time you run out of money. You've demonstrated that you can build a product. You've demonstrated that you can get somebody to buy it and pay revenue for it. So it's starting to work. But now you will have to need to raise some more money so that you can take it to the next level. Maybe I want to start working on a second product. Maybe instead of just serving a certain segment of the market, I want to serve a bigger portion of the market, maybe the global market. And the cost to put personnel out there and support services is expensive. And so I'm going to have to invest in building that infrastructure. But over time, and spending this money, revenues start to grow, and pretty soon your revenues will exceed your operating expenses and you become profitable. And if you can sustain that, now you're a real company and you're growing and you don't need me anymore. You don't need my money. And so then we begin talking about what kind of an exit is best for you and your company. Do we want to go public and be a public company? Do we want to find a perfect partner and merge with them? Or a much larger company and be acquired by them? You know, and in all these cases, that means there's a cash flow back into the company. Some of it goes to you, the employees. And great wealth can be achieved through this process. If you're not born rich today, this is one of the last avenues where you can get rich by being an entrepreneur, starting a company, making it successful, and then having an exit, selling the company, merging that company, going public with that company. And Silicon Valley is full of millionaires, 100 millionaires, billionaires from just doing this. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, going to go public next week. The valuation of his company is said to be $100 billion the day he goes public. And I don't know how many billion, but his pockets will be lined with billions of dollars. So I mean, this is an extreme, but it happens all the time. And if you have the driving ambition to be an entrepreneur and you go about it the right way, you also can get very wealthy and enjoy the stardoms of building an idea into a great successful company. So what was I talking about? I got off on a tangent. So I was saying we need to do research that's worthy of being commercialized. We need to train and teach students on how to build great companies. We also need to go out to the professional service providers in the state and get them to change their practices to work with our new startup businesses. So that means we need to go to the lawyers and the bankers and the accountants and the recruiters and the landlords and all these cast of people whose services we need at some phase in starting our little company, and get them to work with us, meaning I don't have a lot of money at this early stage. I can't pay you, Mr. Lawyer, $100,000 to incorporate my business. I don't have it, but I do need to get incorporated and do it correctly. I can't go sign a little 1,000 square foot piece of a building that I'm going to start in and work in, but I'm not going to sign a 5-year lease for that building because I know in 6 or 8 months I'm outgrowing it. I got to move into a bigger building. And so I need a 1-year lease at most. And when I go to recruit a VP of marketing, I get a recruiter and they say, I'm happy to help you. It's going to cost you $100,000 for me to help you hire that person. I can't afford that. I'll pay you $5,000. So these professional service providers have to adapt their practices and recognize the value of getting in on the ground floor with these companies, making a little sacrifice and cutting some of their costs. But over the years, as they're now plugged into these companies and these companies grow, they make their money many times over and are very happy that they did what they did. And this story is going to have to get told and sold to these professional service providers here in the near future. The next and very important thing is new little startup companies in Ohio today have a hard time raising venture capital money. There are not a lot of venture funds in Ohio for Ohio. And so if you're trying to start a company here in the Athens area, you're being forced to go out to California, you go to Boston, go out in far-reaching areas to raise some capital to help you get this company going. And bottom line, it's 10 times harder. It doesn't have to be that way. We just need to raise some venture capital here so that we can finance your new business startups. And then the fifth thing that we needed to work on was when we're building new industry hubs around the nation, in close proximity to those hubs, these are the center of expertise of this new industry. So if we were doing software patient record management systems, we would probably be doing that in concert with Cleveland State University. And so Cleveland would become the hub of that new industry. And we would have to go in there and build a tech park, a real estate facility with all the amenities of the state-of-the-art of technology needed for a startup company to get launched and get going in an environment that's close to the bigger companies in this space, close to many of the smaller new startup businesses in this space, and a way to attract skilled workers. We need to get to a critical mass of skilled workers. And if we have a hub, it's a contagious environment to attract from out of state and in state the skill base that we need to get that industry off the ground. So if we do all those things, we're well positioned and prepared, I believe, I've witnessed, to build new, great, successful, world-class industries. So that's what we've got to do. Now, I think there's a growing belief. The governor has said that his #1 priority here in Ohio is the economy and jobs. And he has his whole workforce working on this up in Columbus, trying to figure this out. This task force I'm on is a small component of contributing to that. The Third Frontier program is really kind of focused on technology commercialization and what can the government do to foster it. And so he's committed. He's going to do and is doing whatever it is he can to make something different happen. Ohio University has also been working for 4 years now, trying to make a difference, trying to expand our skill set of doing these things that I've talked about. Let's review a few of those. Let me just tell you kind of in real time today what's going on and where are we going next. Well, no, first I'm going to talk a little bit about some new industries in Ohio. The first thing we have to do if we're going to rebuild the Ohio economy is we've got to go out and build some new industries. Industries where Ohio can rise up, be differentiated, establish a major position, and over time become a global leader, like we did in the tire and rubber industry or we did in automobile industry. Those industries are gone, we have to replace them. And it's hoped that the replacing underlying technology that will enable it will come through our universities. So some of the areas that are being contemplated today in Ohio as areas where new industry can be created is, the first one is the cure and the management of diabetes. You may say this is a niche area. It is a niche area, but it's very close to becoming an epidemic disease. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. We're building a huge state-of-the-art research and development area in Dublin, Ohio around this topic of diabetes. And with a little bit of effort and work, we could become a leader in diabetes and then branch off of that other like immune sicknesses that could also leverage some of what we're doing there and expand us into other diseases and really continue to grow that industry. Another area is the whole area of clean burning coal. Coal today is the #1 fuel source for the generation of electricity for power plants. One problem with it, it emits carbon dioxide, it pollutes the air. If we can burn coal cleanly and erase that issue, coal could become the primary fuel force for electric plants in America for the next 100 years. And there's a lot of work going on at Ohio University to deal with this emissions management. Clean burning coal, algae work, there's a number of things going on that are promising. And this could be a huge industry. There's some oil and gas reserves over in eastern Ohio. The Marcellus shale rock reserves and the Utica reserves. There's sufficient oil under the ground that if we can get to it, could fulfill the needs of this nation for, I believe, 800 years. We could solve many of Ohio's problems by just tapping into that oil and gas. Now there's some problems. The fracturing way they do it, they put water, huge amounts of water, force it down into the ground to break that shale rock to open up the reservoirs of oil and gas so they can escape. Sometimes they escape straight up, and sometimes they escape up and spread out, and thus pollute neighboring communities, and that's not a good deal. They cause earthquakes. So wonderful natural resources right there. We can get them, but we got some technology, we got some work to do it safely, out of harm's way, with a good, clean environment. And I think we'll get there. And when we do, there's a tremendous wealth of opportunity sitting there. We're also working in some, I'll call them centers of expertise in software. Up in the Cleveland area, we're doing software for medical applications. And a lot of people, a lot of work going on to try to be a real named force in this industry. I think down here in Southeast Ohio, we're doing some software creative work, kind of what we have here in the Grid Lab, in digital media, in multiplayer online gaming. This is another very large business industry and growing quickly. And the work that I see here and the graduates I see leaving and their ability to make a contribution in some of these companies out here today, I mean, we have some really skilled, talented students with know-how. And so we need to exploit that. And maybe our corridor from here to Ohio State, which is basically the same size as the Silicon Valley. We got 2 universities, Berkeley and Stanford, and 50 miles. Here we have Ohio State and Ohio University and 50 miles of open land. So let's try to figure out how do we develop this corridor to become another tech center focusing on some areas of technology innovation and turn it into a world leader in providing goods and services to satisfy the customers out there. And I think this area could be part of what drives that, this whole area of game theory and game for professional teaching. And the game technology is expanding quickly and becoming very technical, and therefore the using audience is growing quickly. So there's an opportunities there, I believe. New industry could be in stem cell therapy, about a Cleveland clinic. It could be fuel cell technology coming out of Ohio University. It could be polymer chemistry, the synthetic rubber up in the Akron-Canton area. There are plenty of new creative ideas on industries that we could pursue and win here in Ohio if we really put some concentrated efforts, develop some student skills around that industry, educated some adults willing to be trained to go to work in a new, more high-tech industry, and if we can entice and encourage skilled workers in these industries from out of state to come into state, we can build a critical mass and we can go win in some of these different industries that we're going to go after. My goal is to identify 10 industries across the state, different fields, energy, medicine, computer science, agricultural areas, and turn at least half of these into real, viable, growing industries that will create many jobs, long-term professional jobs, generate tax dollars, and basically rebuild the economy. Doing this will be fun. Doing this will be what I happened to have the opportunity to do 40 years ago when I got to California. It's exciting, it's neat, and I think Ohio is willing today to give more help, financial help and other forms of help to these new entrepreneurial startup businesses than California ever did. We've got a lot more going for us here. We can talk about that here in a second. So Ohio is doing its part. We're working hard to try to push the envelope of creativity forward in preparing our students and our research labs to do commercial quality, worthy research work that we can then take out and build a business around. I'll give you some examples of the work that's going on here. It's amazing at the rate at which it's caught on and growing. We have started a Center for Entrepreneurship. This is in the business school. Right now it's a certificate program, but we're rapidly working toward making it a full degree program where students, undergraduate students, graduate students, and students from any discipline will be given the opportunity to come and take courses if they have any interest in entrepreneurship. How do I take an idea and turn it into a business? How do I write a business plan? How do I raise money? How do I employ my founding team of 4 or 5 people that are going to complement me and work with me to launch this business? How do I go through a product development process to take the demands of the customer, look at the technology I have, and figure out a mass-producible product? How do I then take that product and take it to market? How do I sell it and market it and promote it? Directly, indirectly, field salespeople, over the internet, through retail stores. How do I sell? So you have to figure all this stuff out. And these courses will help you learn and understand all aspects of this, so that when you're faced with it, you have at least a little bit of training and understanding of what are your options and how do I go about it. It doesn't do us any good to have great research and don't address the students. And then when the students go out and try to start companies, we all fail. It's not a very fun, happy environment. So let's do the opposite. Let's do great research that's worthy of being commercialized, and let's develop the students to take it forward and turn it into a great enterprise. Other things we're doing. We have just now completed re-ramping the technology transfer office. So this is the office where if you have technology at the university, it can get protected. They can patent it or copyright it, and they can work with you to figure out how to license your technology out to the public sector. And they will help you negotiate the payback, whatever that may be. The researcher may want to be the recipient of that license on the outside. I invented it. I'm done with school. I want to go start a company. University, license me my technology. And they will do that in a way that's very friendly and very fair. Fair for you and fair for them. Or you may say, you know, this technology really fits well at DuPont or at Procter & Gamble or somewhere. And as opposed to trying to build a competitive company, we're going to license it to them. And now we go off and we negotiate with the powers that be of DuPont, and pretty soon we get an understanding, a contract that says, okay, we'll buy this technology and we'll give you 3% of any revenue that we make with products being sold that incorporate this technology. And we'll do that for 20 years. So we do run some numbers and we say, well, we think that's a $50 million stream of money and we'll take it. And away we go. So there's all kinds of ways of licensing, but it has to start here with our students and with our researchers. We have built a ARC facility, the Academic Research Center. So this is a center for doing research, and it's shared between the engineering school and the medical school. It's a beautiful, state-of-the-art, brand new, okay, I've got to go faster here. It's a great facility for doing research. And if you graduate from there, you go to the Innovation Center, where you can launch a little company in a friendly environment. You can incorporate, you can bring together a team, you can start building a prototype, you can start writing business plans and go out and raise some money. And it's a one-step, two-step. You know, you're leaving academia and you're going into the commercial world in a very friendly sense. We're also working on raising some venture capital, and I'll go through this quickly. We've got several venture capital funds. So these are the funds that are available to finance your early stage business startup. The first one is a seed fund. It's called Tech Growth Ohio. It's funds that we've received from the government of Ohio with some matching money. We have $6 million, and this money is used to really get you out of the laboratory and out into a commercial environment and kind of help get your act together, get incorporated, start defining a product, start talking to customers to validate the market, and get through all of that. The next fund is an early stage venture fund. So now that you're ready to go, you really understand your business, your market, you've got some employees. Now you want to go raise $3 or $4 or $5 million, and you come to an early stage venture investor. And they will work with you, get to understand you, and hopefully eventually put this money to work in your firm. We're raising one of these funds. It's going to be a $150 million fund. The fund is being sponsored by Ohio State University in partnership with Ohio University, and I believe the fund will be raised and up and running and investing by the end of this academic year. The third fund is a mezzanine round, so it's a later stage. You're up, you're running, the business is in the market, you're generating revenue, but you realize that it's time to take another big step of growth. I want to start a new product line. I want to expand my market territory that I sell to, not only to just the United States, but I want to go to the world now. And these movements are good, but they're expensive. You've got to put people and processes in place before you're going to get revenue. So you need to go out and raise some more money, and the mezzanine round of funding is there to help you do that. And that will be another $150 million roughly fund that's raised and available in the next couple months. So we now have money in Ohio to finance new business startups and to really start building some new industries. The last thing here I'm going to talk about on this is we need to build some tech centers. So when we're building new industry, close to those industries will be universities that are working very closely with them to do advanced state-of-the-art of research in that field. And so there's a real collaboration between industry and the universities. And we need to build facilities for the small start-out businesses that are coming out of this university. They start in the ARC, they go to the Innovation Center. They need to then, when they graduate from there, move to a bigger facility. And we have to have facilities nearby available with all the amenities and the state-of-the-art of technology needed to support their business. And so my mission right now, I'm working on this week and will continue working on, is making this happen. And I'm hoping in a couple of years I can come back and tell you it's a done deal. So a lot is going on. Tremendous amount. A culture is being built. I mean, there's a growing belief, you know, in our entrepreneurship clubs, in our classrooms, in the faculty. You hear people starting to talk about this. It's a culture of belief in new business creation that is forming here at Ohio University. And we want to do everything we can to kind of continue to build that excitement, that idea thinking. It's not always right for everybody, but for a lot of you, working in your own little company, being your own boss, taking an idea and turning it into a great business is absolutely fun and what you want to do. You have to go figure that out. So in closing, you may be asking the question, why am I here talking about Ohio's economy, talking about technology commercialization? What does that all have to do with me? Well, I think the answer is very simple. The economic turnaround of Ohio, the mass generation of jobs, and a revival of the economy and the generation of tax revenues, and thus the rise of Ohio to be a world leader in an industry will happen if and only if you accept the challenge and get out there and make it happen. The bottom line is it's the next generation of professional workers in this state who are going to have the opportunity to build tomorrow's new industries. We're trying to define them, which areas of opportunity. We're doing a lot of the seed work, but it's you who are going to find a technology, evaluate a market, put those two together and say there's a business here, get a team together and go start building that company. And it's going to take 5 years and 10 years to reach profitability that's sustainable. And that's fine. I mean, new industries take 10 and 20 years to really make it to the point of success. So your challenge is, if you are an entrepreneur, think hard about where is there a great opportunity and a great group of friends that complement me, where we could go off and start talking about ideas of starting companies. And this is where it all starts. A couple of beers, some pizza, and some talk a few nights, and business ideas come out like magic. I hope to see 40 years from now, 30 years from now, many of you standing up here talking to the students of Ohio University, telling them about your great experiences in taking ideas and turning them into successful businesses. The challenges you had, the struggles you had, the fun that you had, and helping students appreciate and understand what that opportunity really is. So my challenge to you is think big. Please be creative, work hard and work smart, be willing to sacrifice, be a team player, and enjoy the experience and reap the benefits. There will be many benefits. Have fun, and thank you for allowing me to speak with you here this morning. Do we have time?
5 minutes for questions.
Okay, I'm sorry I ran over, but anybody with any question about Silicon Valley, about entrepreneurship, go for it.
My name is Josh Robinson. I just want to know, what was your biggest struggle through the years and how did you overcome it?
The biggest people is getting the right people to do the job, to fit the culture of your company. So you don't want to get one rotten apple in your basket of fruit and it can spoil the whole thing. So when you interview people, you interview them to make sure that they're qualified to do the job you want done. But secondly, you want them to also fit the mold of the culture, the environment that you're trying to create inside your company. Once you find them, keeping them, rewarding them, and challenging them is always tough to do. Every other company is out trying to get that person. And you have to find a way to not lose him. It's always a challenge out in that valley where there's never enough workers for all the jobs that are available.
Thank you.
Yes.
How are you going about determining the likelihood of commercialization success?
Well, so my proposal, it has not happened yet. My proposal is to take the VP of research of 6 universities, the bigger research universities in Ohio. You pick the 8 or 10 chief technical officers of the major companies here in Ohio, canvassing a variety of industries, oil and gas and medical technology and the energy and software, and get some really quality, thoughtful, forward-thinking CFOs. Then you get a few government, Third Frontier Foundation people who really have been studying and understand from a government viewpoint, new tech commercialization activities. You look at the geographical breakdown of the state so that you don't put them all in Cleveland and you want to get them spread out. You look at some competition that might be staring at you have to deal with. You look at the natural resources that you have available. And basically this team goes away for a few weeks, and they're the ones that see the upcoming technology, the future of technology, where strengths lie in Ohio, and industries are big enough to kind of go target, and encourage them then to come back and tell us what are those 10 industries that we should go after. It's not going to be energy and the environment, health and well-being. These are way too big. We got to cut this down into something, stem cell therapy, where we can wrap our arms around it and own it and become a leader there. And then once you're a leader there, then you can expand it and grow it. That's what we have to do. And I think that work is in the early stages of getting going right now. Another question?
Yeah, we have time for one more question.
Okay, yes.
Okay, my name is Tony Costanzo, and being from the area myself, I was really interested in how you talked about building up the corridor between Athens and Columbus. And it sounds like you have a little bit of, university expansion, a little bit of like industry incorporation to that area, and a lot of students staying put once they come up with these ideas here and staying in the area and that sort of stuff, if that's fair to say.
Yes.
I was wondering, what's the biggest challenge for doing that, for keeping people in this area and bringing them to this area, and someone like me who would want to start some sort of company later on in their life, what could someone like I do to prepare now so that when that time comes, I have the proper pieces in place to make it happen?
So, great question. Not every young business startup, emerging from a college environment needs to stay close by a college. In many cases, it needs to get out into its industry, close to partners, geographically somewhere else. And that's fine. And we should encourage it. We will. It's our technology still being licensed, and if they're successful out there, they're still going to be paying us a royalty. But in the process of doing that, we're losing the technology in the state of Ohio, and we're losing the brain power behind that invention. And we'd like to keep that. By starting a tech park close by a university, it enables several things to happen. One is, quite often our professors are the kingpin of doing research. And if our professors were to get up and leave the university to go to Columbus or Cleveland or to implement that company around that technology, we're going to lose that professor. Well, if that happens once, we can probably live with it. When it happens 20 and 30 and 40 times, we're starting to lose all of our key professors, and that would kill this university. So we do not want to lose our key professors, researchers. We want them to do research and teach, which is their day job and which they're best at. What we want them to do is develop graduate students under them who are fully knowledgeable and skilled in that area, and that graduate student is the one that goes over here in another small team of people, and they start that company. The professor now can still be aligned. He can be on the board of directors. He can be a consultant. He can be doing whatever he needs to do to help get that company up and going. That professor may have a stock option in the company, so if that company is successful, he's going to be rewarded. He may get some remuneration of pay for the time he's putting in, but he comes home and starts doing more research. And this time he's got 3 or 4 students, and his hope is to have 3 or 4 or 5 companies up and running in 10 years, all in different stages of success. And he can see realistically now a way of making a tremendous amount of income from these companies if they're successful. He's doing a better job of staying here, doing research, promoting commercialization, helping these companies in the long run. And so that's very doable if that tech park, that building where he's housing his company is 10, 20, 30 minutes drive at most from what he's doing. So we don't want to lose our faculty. We really want to develop new business creations nearby. So that's one key reason. I think there are several others, but we're going to run out of time. Did I answer your question?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry I ran out of time. Anybody who wants to talk to me and did not get an opportunity, come see me. I got a business card. Contact me, email me, call me, and I'll be happy to have more dialogue with you in the days and weeks ahead. Thank you. Thank you.